Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good. Because after all, that's what we want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Today on the show, we'll be visiting with Lois Daigneault, a former Olympic swimmer. She also spent years as an Olympic coach and has traveled around the world coaching other athletes. Years later, Lois has found her way to our part of the world here in North Central Washington. And with a wealth of experience, I want to hear some of the lessons and her wisdom that she has to share with us. Because I love to visit with inspiring people, and as you know, I want to share those visits with you too. So stick around. It's going to be a great conversation. But before we get to that, I do want to remind you that if you have questions you would like me to answer on or off the air, you can email those directly to me at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. And if we use your question on the show, I'll send you a copy of my Amazon best-selling book, The Practice of Feeling Good. If you've been following the show and you want to learn more about personal development or how to take your life more powerfully to that next level, then grab a copy of my book on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, search for The Practice of Feeling Good. It'll come up. You can also visit me at my website, FletcherEllingson.com, where I've got all sorts of free resources there. You don't have to figure all these complicated life issues out on your own. There are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. Now, at this point in the show, I usually take time to answer an email question and offer some coaching, but today I want to skip that because I want to give some extra time to our conversation with Lois. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we'll be right back, so stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. So glad you're here because today on the show we are visiting with Lois Daigneault, and I haven't met, or I've met her, but I haven't found out a lot about her. So Lois, I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. I am too.
All right.
Excited.
Well, hey, we always start off the show with a couple wins or even one win, but okay. So I'm curious, what's something that's going well in your life? What's a win lately for you?
Well, I can speak to a professional win. I'm with Keller Williams, and I currently work with Keller Williams. And one of the things that I'm trying to do for our agents is to bring them to a different level or a different standard, and to provide our agents with as much information and as much opportunity as possible. So today, I actually developed a preferred vendor program, and we just got confirmation that Blue Water Homes is going to be our exclusive vendor, which
Cool.
brings in tremendous amount of financial opportunity for us and for our agents. So that's a win for us.
Right on.
Yeah,
so
really
a
excited.
project that you're making progress on, right?
Yes, yes.
And progress feels good.
It does, always.
Well, good way to be in action.
Yeah.
So you gave me your bio here, and I'm looking over this, and I'm like, whoa, holy moly. You have had quite a life full of adventure. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm just going to read a couple of these things off. You were born in Ottawa, Canada.
Yep.
Dual citizen. In swimming, you were on the Canadian national team. Mm-hmm. You had first Olympic trials in 1976, then 1980 Olympic team. You had 14-time All-American University of Miami. You then went into coaching. You graduated with BA in sports medicine. You were coaching other athletes. I mean, wow, what an exciting life.
It has been.
And I know that to live at that level, to perform at that level, requires something that a lot of people don't tap into. And I'm curious as to how did you grow up with that? I know your father was also a professional football player.
Yep.
You had siblings who were also quite
Successful.
Extraordinary, right?
Yep. Yep.
What was it like growing up? How did that get molded into you, that work ethic or that drive or determination? Can you speak to that, please?
That's a great question. Well, growing up, my father was a professional football player. He played for Clemson. Yes, Clemson, go Clemson. And then he was drafted into the CFL in Ottawa. hence that's where I was born. And then he was traded to the Montreal Alouettes, so we grew up in Quebec, Canada. And my father eventually ended up being a college football coach, college basketball coach, and he had 5 daughters. They tried hard, but had 5 daughters. I remember growing up and having helmets on, all of us, right?
Oh, right on.
So we grew up in a family and with a father and a mother that had very high standards and high expectations. And I can remember most of my life, on a daily basis, our father would say, remember, you're the best, and you will always be the best. And so it was that type of verbiage that you heard on a consistent basis, right? And there was never an option of quitting. There was never an option of not doing it. There was never an option that you couldn't do it. It was just a matter of how you're going to figure it out and what kind of resources are you going to use to figure it out. So there was never that negative, you can't. And I say never, and I really mean that, right?
Yeah.
When you had an issue, it was always, you can work it out, you can do it.
Wow.
You're capable. So when you grow up with something like that, right, and you have that mindset and that belief, that's what you know. And
I love that.
we had that opportunity. You don't know it, right, when you're growing up and you're in it. You don't know. You go, yeah, it's just what life is. That's the way it goes. And you're going to be successful, and this is how you're going to rise, right?
You know, I love that distinction you just made. When you're young, you don't know the difference. If you had been raised in a home where you were like, you're the worst, Lois, you'll never succeed, you'll always be struggling, you would have grown up with that programming, right?
Absolutely. It would have been a completely different experience, but we didn't know any different.
Yeah.
You know?
So amazing. So you had a father and mother who were intentionally programming you guys' outlook and mindset about life, yeah?
Oh, absolutely. And then when you attend every football game, every basketball game, and you are constantly hearing that reinforcement, right? That's what you know. And you see it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we grew up in that.
You know it, you see it, you believe it, and then begin experiencing it.
Absolutely. That's your mindset.
Yeah. Wow, what a gift, right?
Absolute gift.
Man.
Yes.
Man. Now, despite all your accomplishments, and you've got so many of them, it's so cool, there must have been some lessons or times of where you didn't hit the mark. Can you recall any of those that really, at the time seemed like disappointing and maybe a quote-unquote failure, but it actually became something that served you?
Yeah, so I guess my mindset and the way that I see it in the verbiage that I use is I never use the word failure. I use more growth opportunity, and I have most of my life. What can I learn from this? How can I grow from it? And what do I need to do to change that circumstance so that, I can be better and I can grow? So I always have felt that those are stepping stones to growth and success. Everybody, I would imagine everyone experiences those growth opportunities. And I have experienced many. You don't get to where you're going without them, I don't think, because then you don't grow. Right? You can't be successful. Specifically, I was ready for the 1980 Olympics. And Canada, US boycotted. Can you imagine, from the age of 10 years old, right, training twice a day, and swimming is intensive. You swim, in the morning, at night. I mean, it is a lifestyle, and it's a tough lifestyle. Can you imagine, years and years of training and being on the top in the world and ready to go in 1980 and not going?
No.
Working your whole life, that's your goal. And it's you're robbed, basically, right? You're robbed of the opportunity because of politics.
Yes, yeah,
Right?
and the politics specifically where they were going to be held in the Soviet Union, they were invading Afghanistan, and Canada was like, nope, you're not going to support that.
We're not going.
Yeah,
Exactly. So that was probably one of the toughest moments and times in my life, to have to accept that. And as you know, you peak at certain times as an athlete. Maybe you do know or not know. I would imagine you would. And that was a peak period. And honestly, it was a tough period because it's very sad, and it's like a major loss, especially at that age, right? When your sights are set and the opportunity is taken.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that was a very, very challenging time in my life.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And so then I had to replace it with something that was going to be greater than that. And how can I help? What am I going to do? How can I contribute with the experience that I've had in my life? What am I going to do?
Yes.
You know, and how am I going to give back? And
yes. And you came up with?
Well, so at the time, it was my last year in college, and I was in sports medicine, and I got a full ride, actually, to do my master's at Kentucky, and decided to make a shift and actually go into coaching.
Nice.
Which was, because I felt that there were other opportunities as a coach to teach or coach swimmers a different way of training. And in the 70s and 80s, it was more yardage, harder work, just more and more because the East Germans were doing it. I remember swimming against East Germans, and they were all taking steroids, right? But we didn't know that. So all we did was train harder and harder and harder. We couldn't do the yardage they were doing, right? But you were competing, and our coaches were like, they're doing it, you're doing it, right? And it wasn't necessary. So consequently, people got burnt out, and it wasn't really the right strategy for a lot of athletes, especially females, right? So couldn't keep up with the work. So that's where I made a shift and said, I think I can contribute here, you know, to the greater good and for athletes everywhere. And that's why I made the shift into coaching, and the rest is history.
And how was that for you?
Oh, it was fantastic. I went back to Canada. I did my master's in sports psychology, and the reason I did that was because, you know, in working with parents and realizing my own life as we started out in my own life, how that verbiage as you grow up is really important. Well, I found myself, you know, coaching these athletes and understanding that most of their mindset was due to how their family felt about them, or their mother, how their mother and father reacted to them. And so I felt like I was constantly speaking to the parents about mindset and what they need to tell their children, rather than just coaching their child, right? Because they didn't have a chance if their family wasn't on board, right? You need the support. So I said, I've got to get into sports psychology and understand how I can make this happen for everyone.
I love it. So you began focusing on the messaging.
Right.
And we're trying to unify some messaging at home as well. Is that accurate?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A whole unit, right?
The messaging is so important. Right, it's all about that mindset. And that was that gift that your folks gave you that just kept on giving, right?
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
Right.
That's so cool. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get more in depth into this conversation and find out what Lois is doing here in North Central Washington. So stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. So glad you're here. I'm so glad you're in this conversation. As you know, I think this is an important conversation. Today we're visiting with Lois Daigneault. We've been talking about what she did in years ago before she moved here as an Olympic swimmer, Olympic coach. And then here we are in North Central Washington. What brought you here?
My sisters are here, so my family's here. I have a sister that's runs Chateau Philippon. They're all in the alcohol business. But my sister, Chateau Philippon, went to Clemson, so she was a high-level athlete as well. I have a sister that owns Karma, Julie Pitzinger, and she swam in the '84 Olympics.
Yes.
And then I have a national figure skater, Vicky, who's here as well. My mom and dad, my mother passed away recently, but my father is still here and he's with us. So kind of made a left turn out of coaching, and my family, at this age, you're, kind of looking to be closer to your family, and when your parents are older, and we all get along really well. So made a left turn, and here I am in Wenatchee.
Right on.
Well,
right
Chelan and Wenatchee.
Well, it's great that you have family that you want to be close to, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah. And so these days, you mentioned you're working at Keller Williams.
I am.
So you entered into the real estate industry, and how long have you been doing that?
So I've been in for 4 years.
Okay.
And I was in Chelan and selling. Russ McClellan, as I'm sure most people know, with Keller Williams, recruited me.
Yep.
And so I was selling in Chelan, and then took on the team leadership position in Wenatchee. So I'm running the whole show down here in Wenatchee, and I love it. Well, actually coaching.
Yes.
And, yes.
You continue to lead and coach in a different industry.
In a different industry.
So I got to ask you, can you give me an example of a skill or two that has transferred from your previous life and what you're doing over to here to the real estate industry and what you're doing now?
Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes is, you don't drown falling into the water, you drown staying in. And that's true everywhere. Right? It's true in every aspect of life and in every industry, right? And one of the things that I really used in coaching was trying to make sure that my athletes progressed in one way or another, either physically, mentally, emotionally. Progression is everything, right? That's why we live, hopefully. And a lot of people are stuck, right? They're stuck in wherever they are.
Yes.
And they're stuck because, from my opinion, and in my opinion, they don't progress. They don't change.
Yes.
They do not progress.
Yes.
And progression is everything, right?
You are speaking my language.
And so in coaching, it was all about progression, because you have goals, and what's the next one? What's the next one? So you use that concept I use that concept with the agents that I'm working with right now, right? And trying to change the mindset, but also create momentum and progression for everyone. Because you can't stay the same and hope to be successful, right?
Correct.
You've got to change, you've got to, you've got to, as far as I'm concerned, you've got to grow and you've got to progress. And so the question is, how do you do that, right? And so using those skills as a coach, I love working with people, right? And so try and bring those skills into this position. And my big position is recruitment, right? And trying to get agents to see the value in KW, but also to provide that opportunity for agents to progress and to grow. And the biggest way, or the most important way that I think we can do that, is to bring you in to help us, right? So you look for the people who are the experts in the field. And if you're trying to grow any business, you can't do everything, right?
Yes.
And you shouldn't do everything, as far as I'm concerned. You've got to get the best people in, and you are the best at what you do. So, those are a couple of things that we're trying to do on a monthly basis, bring you in as a mastermind coach, and then also the clinic that you're going to be running for us on not only growth, but the most important thing, I think, is resistance to it. And that is going to be the big thing, because agents, how can I help our agents progress, right? How do we become successful? Well, you bring in the experts, but also you talk about the real issue, not just everything around it, right? You say, what is the key concept here that we need to focus on? And after conversations with you, our key concept is, what are we resistant to? And then how can we open that up to everyone? Like, what is our resistance? And we may not even be aware of it, right? And this is why the conversation and the 2-day clinic, February 17th and 18th, everyone can join us. It is going to be amazing. And you're going to have the opportunity to really go into depth about what it is that's keeping you back from either changing or progressing.
Yes.
And that's all there is in life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying so much, Lois. You know, my book, The Practice of Feeling Good, at the core of it, it's really the practice of bringing an empowering story, and that story allows us to progress, right? Because we're, like you said, when we plateau, we become discontent, and we're like, we become uneasy, but we're not sure how to make that progress. As soon as we begin progressing, we feel good.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's all about that, yes.
Yeah. We want progress because progress literally feels good in the body.
Because you're doing something.
Yes.
You're moving forward,
Yes,
right?
you're evolving, moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's such a wonderful concept, and I love that. I love knowing that these folks have you on their team with that knowledge that you're wanting to impart and helping to impart to them, because it literally is the difference maker.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, we talk about mindset and everything, but really discovering within yourself what it's going to take,
Yes.
that's different. And helping us to do that is going to bring Keller Williams and our agents to a completely different level, as far as I'm concerned, because that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be wonderful.
I am too.
Yeah, so it's February 17th and 18th, right?
8:30 to 5:30 at the Keller Williams Market Center,
Yeah.
which is on Mission 1111 Mission, North Mission Ave. Or you can just give me a call and I'll send you some information on it.
Yeah,
You know, but I'd love to have you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If this is of interest to you, you're hearing this and you're like, whoa, I'm interested. It doesn't matter if you work at a different real estate brokerage. If this is of interest to you, get a hold of Lois, get the details, and attend, because it's going to be a game changer.
Oh, it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, it really is.
Absolutely.
Lois, I love your energy. You've had such an inspiring life, and thank you for taking the time to share it with people, because it's not about tooting our horn, it's about sharing an experience with the intention that it might be of service to someone, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
All right, and now it's time for you all to get out there. Be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and I believe in you.